Dragons, it's Paige here with your weekly Thunder Index, where we discuss all things science, storms, stars, and sustainability. Per usual, let's head into this next week of weather. It looks like we have a warm, wet, and gloomy week of weather ahead of us. Temperatures will get all the way up to 70 degrees. Yes, you heard that right, 70 degrees. But they will dip down to 37 degrees, so we're not in the clear for warm weather just yet. We have potential for some scattered rainstorms throughout this week, and there will also be a fair amount of wind as well, so hold on tight to those umbrellas. Moving up in the sky and into the stars, let's recap on the last week of astrology and what it means for you. How are you guys hanging in there? Are your emotions getting the best of you right now? Have finals started to take an extreme toll on you? Well, if the answer is yes to any of those questions, you are not alone. It seems that the kickoff to this Pisces season has been nothing but a passionate one. Emotions are running high, people are anxious, and it can be an overwhelming time, especially with the amount of workload that we have here, Dragons. Do yourself a favor and hang in there, you're almost there. Friday evening, the last quarter moon was exact when the sun in Pisces formed a square with the moon in Sagittarius. And if you didn't catch any of that, all you really need to know is that this is why we have all been a mess lately. After basking in the awareness symbolized by last week's full moon, we disperse our knowledge and come to a point where we need to decide what works for us and what does not. These decisions are all in preparation for this week's new moon. New moons are a chance for new beginnings, a fresh new start, and the perfect way to close out a difficult term. Take this week and do a little mental organization. Try your best not to start a new project during this time. Work on what is right in front of you and get it out of the way. Focus on yourself and what you would like to leave behind with this new moon coming up. Is it a project that you've been working on, a new exam that's coming up? Whatever it is, hang in there. It's almost complete. Make sure to mentally check in this week, Dragons. Really take a moment, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, how am I doing? If you feel like you could use a hand, don't hesitate to reach out to Drexel's free counseling center at counseling@drexel.edu. Here you could schedule a same-day appointment with a trained therapist. For more resources and information, you can visit Drexel's Counseling Center page at drexel.edu. Please remember, Dragons, your mental health always comes first. Now heading back down to earth and onto campus, let's take a look at Drexel's COVID numbers. Between February 22nd and February 28th, Drexel performed 3,823 tests with 57 coming back positive. This moves our percent positivity up to 1.5%. This is unfortunately much higher than it was the previous week, which was only 0.7% positive. So Dragons, please make sure you are following the proper guidelines and staying as safe as possible so that we can all return back to a normal campus as soon as possible. Speaking of COVID number trends, just 2 weeks ago, the New York Times came out with an article presenting compiled data gathered from universities' public dashboards across the United States. Drexel University was one of those schools. When pulling up Drexel's data, the New York Times claims that our university's COVID numbers experienced a 191% increase, when in fact our numbers are some of the lowest that they ever have been, which you can see from the Drexel COVID dashboard as well as what we report week to week on this segment. Dr. Marla Gold, Director of Return to Campus Operations, sent out an email to student, faculty, and staff saying, "The presentation of this data is misleading for several reasons. And I believe it is important for you to understand that our campus community is doing a very good job at protecting each other, preventing COVID-19 transmissions, and keeping case counts low." She then goes on to explain how the data can be interpreted in many different ways, and that no standard methodology was used for this published data set, leading to marked inconsistencies as well as incorrect comparisons and assumptions. Because of this, it is problematic to attempt to use this data as a way of comparing or judging the relative success of schools' responses to this pandemic. You can find a link to the New York Times article as well as Dr. Gold's email in the description box below so that you can see the information for yourself. Now that we have Drexel's COVID numbers all figured out, let's switch over to sustainability and take a look at my plant of the week. This week's plant is a bamboo palm. You have definitely seen these large beauties before. If not as an accent piece in your home, as a piece of culture in media. These are some of the most commonly grown palms, and they can add a tropical flair to any room. They don't require a lot of light, so they can make an ideal houseplant. But when they have access to full light, they can grow up to 20 feet tall. There are over 100 species out there, so there is definitely one that could pique your interest. As if you needed another reason to get one, they can also aid in the removal of harmful elements. These elements can include benzene and formaldehyde. Removing these harmful chemicals from the air makes these a great plant for sustainability. In fact, I even have my very own palm that sits right beside my desk. Her name is Ruth, after, of course, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and here's a picture. And that is all of the science, storms, stars, and sustainability that I have for you this week. It's always thundering in Philadelphia, Dragons. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.